Stanley, Breeden and Belinda Wright are professional photographers, naturalists and filmmakers. They're on assignment for the National Geographic Society and have been living in Kakadu National Park in Northern Australia for 18 long months. Filming crocodiles in Yellow Water's Billabong will complete their task. For Stan and Belinda, living in wilderness areas around the world has become a way of life. Their previous assignment for National Geographic was to track down and film the endangered Indian tiger. The television film which resulted won them both Emmy Awards. Soon they must leave for Los Angeles to edit the tens of thousands of feet of film shot, but they are keen to look at another wilderness area before leaving.
The Kimberley in the far northwest of the continent was one of the last major areas in Australia to be settled by Europeans. It is 3 times the size of England, yet after 100 years of settlement, the region is still only sparsely populated, with vast areas of inaccessible wilderness remaining. This coastline is a magnificent wilderness area in its own right, with thousands of uncharted islands, bays and inlets. It looks exactly the same today as it did when Abel Tasman sailed past here in 1644. In places, the huge tides rush through narrow gorges at such incredible speeds that they create horizontal waterfalls, and some dream of harnessing the power to make electricity. Let's hope it remains a dream. No wonder that when the white settlers eventually came to the Kimberley with their cattle in the 1890s, they came overland. Our starting point is Derby. The Aborigines, who lived in the Kimberley long before the Europeans came, now concentrate in the few towns and settlements loosely scattered through what was once their paradise. To see as much as we can in the limited time available, we seek the help of Sam and Rosita Lovell, who run safari tours out of Derby. They know the Kimberley as well as anyone. To save us time, Rosita started provisioning for the trip even before we arrived. We are here in October during the dry season and the hottest part of the year. Not the ideal time for such a trip, but we'd heard so much about the Kimberley and wanted to see for ourselves whether it was interesting enough for us to spend 2 years of our lives here at some time in the future.
How was your trip?
Oh, it was a good trip. You know, it took a while getting here and it was a bit hot on the way, but...
Much hotter here than Kakadu.
Yeah, it gets pretty warm here.
We've really been working hard these last few months in Kakadu, so it's going to be a tremendous break for us. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy the trip.
Yeah, we tried to cut down on our equipment a lot, Sam. I just hope we haven't got too much just so we can all fit in one vehicle, because we haven't got a roof rack on that, so I just hope we can.
Usually we are self-supporting on our field trips, so having Sam and Rosita with us would make a nice change.
That'd be lovely.
Sam and Rosita were born in the Kimberley and have lived here all their lives.
Will we be able to get right up to
As we sit down to plan the trip, we soon realize the depth of Sam's knowledge and why he is regarded as one of the best tour operators in the Kimberley.
Looks like there is some beaches along there.
Good fishing out there, is it?
Yeah, it is. You got to watch out for the big crocodiles there.
Yeah, you got some big ones there, have you?
This is all the more important to us, as we want to get to some of the more out-of-the-way places.
These islands here and the thing. Have you got a map of that
Yeah, we've got
more detailed map.
Yeah, we've got a good one here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That looks like a lovely spectacular. Look at the cliffs.
It is, yeah, very nice in there.
We have to carry everything we are likely to need for the next few weeks. All our food and water, camping gear, fuel. The area we are going into is vast. I'm curious to find out how the Kimberley could reject civilization for so long, for there have been many attempts to develop the area, but mostly they failed, and the Kimberley remains predominantly wilderness. We knew we would only scratch the surface in the short time we'd be here, but if we seriously plan to come back to the Kimberley, we need to know just where to be at certain times of the year and what we could expect to film. Any negative thoughts I have were soon pushed aside. There is something magical about the place, and I was to fall under its spell. It often happens like this. In the late afternoon, you can find what you think is a peaceful campsite, only to be woken next morning by a deafening chorus of cicadas. Stan likes to wander about in the morning anyway. He feels it's the time of day when the bush will yield some of its secrets. Stan has been inspired by the Australian bush. He was born in Holland and came to Australia when he was 14. Since then, nature and wildlife have been his passion, and he has written many books on Australia's natural history, always with marvelous photographs which reflect his special affinity with the wild. Rosita is a wonderful cook and happens to make the best bush damper in the southern hemisphere. For a change, we were able to relax and enjoy our bush camp to the full. I was born in India and started taking still photographs when I was 16. Stan and I met when we found ourselves on the same assignment for National Geographic. Since then, we've made about 10 wildlife films together. I think it's wonderful that we can make our living the way we do. The Kimberley is famous for Aboriginal rock paintings, and we are eager to see them. Many of the sites are restricted areas, and visitors can only see the paintings when accompanied by an Aboriginal custodian. To the Aboriginal people, these are sacred places, and the paintings are images of great religious and spiritual significance. Through Sam, we had contacted someone who would show us some of the historic art sites nearby, the famous Wandjina paintings we had heard so much about. His name is David Moaljali, but he said we should call him Moal.
That's your son?
Yeah, that's Belinda. Let me take your swag and put it in the back, eh? Yeah.
I might sit in the middle, David, and you can sit on the outside and show us the way. You're not coming, are you? Are you? You better say goodbye.
Get up there, no? Get up there, no?
It's time to get back to the house.
I'm going, no? Shut up. Quick, run. You run, no?
On the southern edge of the Kimberley is part of an ancient barrier reef formed 350 million years ago. The fossilized remains of the reef are most visible in the Napier Range, which was our destination. Wandjina Gorge is considered to be one of the most beautiful places in the Kimberley.
Everything sounds so much louder.
Moal tells us some of the legends relating to this place, of owls, kangaroos, and freshwater crocodiles.
They lived for so long, they ate very little.
These permanent waterholes were a haven for the Aborigines during the long dry season, and they would have spent much time here. This is where we would see the Wandjina paintings, somewhere up there on the cliff face. However, we had to be patient. Moa would show them to us in his own good time.
Yeah, I can hear the flying foxes, Sam, and I can't see them. They're far along.
They're just round the corner. They're beyond them trees. You can't see them, but...
And this time of the year, there'd be quite a number of them, I suppose. Huh?
Yeah, about 200, 300.
Flying foxes are one of our favorite animals. Years ago, we made a film on them and spent 2 months sitting in a high tower set up in the treetops, filming and taking photographs. It was wonderful to be in the center of their world, to hear them screaming and screeching and flapping.
it's quarter pound.
I see.
An over-anxious parent alerts us to a tiny dotterel chick, so well camouflaged, it's almost invisible.
Look at this
Oh,
little
wow, look
fella.
at it. Yeah, he couldn't be more than a few days old, just, dry fluff, that's all he is.
They're so delicate when they're this small. I'm frightened of crushing him.
Yeah, I don't know how they survive in this heat. Actually, seeing there's only one, the others in the nest haven't survived.
There should be more.
The clutch is four eggs, so 3 didn't make it.
I'm glad this little fellow did. We better put him down now. There we are.
Oi! Banyak benda ni lewat. Benda ngolmer. Liang apa mana?
At last, we are to see the Wandjina. The spirits of the Wandjina are powerful and must be treated with great respect. As a custodian, Mawel has to call to the spirits and tell them who is coming before we can approach the painting site.
When this earth was soft like a jelly, we call it ngalala. He come from east. He was a black Wandjina on his own. And we remember the history when he made man. And that's because Wandjina made us. And this fellow is now is the Wandjina that remind us the creation took place.
The Wandjina created everything?
Wandjina created, well, all the trees, land, rocks. That because after he made the animals, then the next life was the human being. And if he had this animal for tucker, then he made the tucker for the Aboriginal people. This is what he did.
Aboriginal legend says that the paintings were not done by people, but by the creators of all life, the Wandjina spirits. It is said that the Wandjinas entered the earth at the places where their images are recorded on the rock, and from these galleries, the Wandjina spirits survey the land that they created.
That two line there, that's his waist belt. It's made out of a kangaroo hair belt. That's his clothes, he wore. And that's called jangun.
What's this big round one here?
This one here, this white one is the cloud. People told us it's their dreaming. We love this place, really, because it is the old Wandjina country, because our Wandjinas and all that are here.
told us some of the stories handed down by the old people of his tribe, stories from an unimaginably distant past. The song came to one of the elders of Moel's tribe. The words mean, very roughly, way, way over there, she is standing up, a light with the power of light. Moel said to us, the listener's mind goes a long, long way, and then they know what it is all about, and the story gets carried on. At the waterhole at Manning Gorge, Moel told us of the rainbow serpent, another of the major Aboriginal creator beings. She emerged from the land, whipping her tail around to form the rivers and gorges. Then she painted herself on the rocks nearby and went into the water, where she still lives and will remain forever. This is a land of such contrasts and extremes. In the wet, the monsoon rains will bring an unexpected green lushness to the land. But in the dry season, the earth bakes under a relentless sun, and some things have to hang on for dear life. There have been many attempts to exploit this land with grandiose schemes and high technology, but thank heavens they have failed here. Nothing I had seen or heard so far prepared me for the Bungle Bungles, a fantastic landscape carved out of a sandstone plateau by millions of years of erosion. Sam and Rosita go off to explore some places they had not seen before and leave us to our own devices. I think of our time spent with Moel and wonder what myths and legends all this grandeur must have inspired in the Aboriginal people, the wonderful stories they would tell of the creation of such a mythical landscape. So little is known of the area that it seems likely, as you go deeper into the Bungles, that new species of plants and animals may be discovered. The fact that many of the valleys and gorges are inaccessible makes it a very exciting prospect for the future. For me, this is wilderness at its best. There are no vehicle tracks or signposts, and the only way in is by foot. It's peaceful here, but daunting at the same time, for it seems an endless maze of pinnacles, towering cliffs and gorges, into which you might walk and be lost forever. The particular path we take leads us to one of the most beautiful places we have seen, an oasis in which we could escape the cruel heat. I wonder what it's like when it's wet in the water.
I'll just go and pour tea. It should be drawn by now.
Cat's ready.
Hey, Sam?
Yep.
There's some martin's nests up here.
Ah.
Way up
Oh,
top.
yeah, I see him. Look at this frog, isn't he most magnificent one you've ever seen? This must be the splendid tree frog we were told about.
That's the biggest frog in Australia.
In Australia, yeah. Incredible creature. Look at him. Bright yellow legs. I'll put him back on this ledge if you like. I'll take some pictures of him.
He wants to walk about.
Look at the colour. I don't want to let it go. There he is.
In this timeless land, time is against us, and we have to move on. We regret leaving the bungles, but there is much more yet to see. Sam is forever on the lookout for things which might interest us. He is obviously used to handling creatures in the wild.
Look at this fella. Very color. He's a beauty.
Lovely markings he's got.
That by your hand, does it look like he's been in some fight sometime ago?
Yeah, he got a battle scar.
Look at that.
They got big claws, all right. They scratch very hard.
Look at the ones in the front, huh?
Careful.
Look at that.
Maybe about 3 foot at first.
Has he got a very pale belly?
Watch you,
Ooh,
you
watch
don't
it.
scratch you.
I suppose we should
Lovely colour.
let him go.
Okay, old fella. There you go, mate. Hang on there now, look. You're going to jump back, try and grab me. See you later, mate.
We were interested to find a group of cycads. Cycads belong to one of the most ancient plant families on Earth, and Northern Australia is one of the few places in the world where they can still be found.
Yeah, Sam said this morning that there's a belt of them between here and Columbaroo. So, but I think otherwise they might be.
We especially enjoy watching and photographing reptiles, and the frill-necked lizard is my personal favorite. This little one is very young, with beautiful markings, but uncharacteristically shy. It simply refuses to extend its frill for the camera. The next day, we found the best we have ever seen. Very aggressive and wonderful to photograph. The purpose of the frill is to make the lizard look many times larger and fiercer than it really is. At last we arrive at the Mitchell Plateau and spend almost a whole day walking in blistering heat to one of the most majestic sights imaginable. Deep gorges have been carved into the plateau by rivers which rage throughout the wet season, then dry up or diminish to a mere trickle during the dry. The Wandjina have created something truly impressive here. Although we are still in Wandjina country, we come across a group of paintings quite different in style to those of the Wandjina, and probably much older. They remind us of paintings we had seen in Arnhem Land, but apparently little is known of these Kimberley paintings and their origin, even by the Aboriginal people. Although we had come to the Kimberley mainly because of our curiosity about the natural environment, we were becoming increasingly fascinated by the Aboriginal people and the richness of their culture, the way they see people, animals, spirit powers, and the land bound together in a great scheme which provides meaningful answers to most of life's questions. Now the tribes who once lived here have gone to live in settlements on the fringes of the wilderness, and the people rarely visit these wonderful places. Because of the work we do, we feel a close affinity with the natural world. I find this helps you get a better perspective on who you are.
And on these rough roads, we'd also have to be careful about packing things.
We rejoin Sam and Rosita to take stock of our progress before leaving on the last part of our journey north.
When we got here, we found that a couple of the tripod handles just shaken off.
Yeah,
and that's about 15 turns.
They do, with the corrugation, shake them loose.
Yeah. If we did come here for a longer stay, though, I think we'd come in the cooler season than now.
Chicken.
That'll be all right in the winter months.
That'll be what, June, July.
Yeah.
Be a lovely time of the year to be here.
Yeah, you get all the waterfalls are running and
spectacular.
more water everywhere. Things are green, scenic.
It's always good to see the ocean again after being in the hot, dry inland. Somewhere along this coastline is where the first Aborigines were thought to have landed when they came from the northwest, tens of thousands of years ago. It must have been a land of plenty for them. For us, it's a naturalist paradise, a coastal wilderness running for thousands of kilometers.
Pristine beach. Amazing. Can't be too many places left like that. Yeah, Doctor? All the way from Siberia.
We heard a bowerbird calling as we walked along the beach and go to investigate.
Yeah, this looks like the place. Somewhere in here.
There it is. Ooh.
And
a
as
tight
you would
squeeze.
expect, these are called seashells instead of snail shells.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bower.
Bowerbirds generally use bones and snail shells to attract female companions, even bits of brightly coloured plastic.
Happy bower too, see? Got the green leaves and berries. That's this morning's.
Look at the sea urchin.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But because this one is next to the sea, the bower is decorated with seashells and bits of coral, even a quartz crystal. Stan puts up our canvas hide, and in spite of the incredible temperature inside, spends 2 hours filming the male bird working on his playground. The only settlement on the entire northern coastline of the Kimberley area is a small Aboriginal community at Kalumbaroo. It was started by Spanish Benedictine monks in 1908, but 6 years passed before the first of the Aboriginal people approached the mission. Eventually, most of the Aborigines of the area came to live here. Today, the community of Kalumbaroo is run by the Aborigines themselves, but a Roman Catholic mission is still there, headed by Father Chris Saunders.
Hello, Father.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Very good.
Good to see you. Welcome. Good
This
to
is
see you again.
Stan, Breeden, and Belinda, and Father
Hi,
Saunders.
Stan, Belinda, Belinda. Welcome. You have a good trip?
Not bad.
Pretty rough old road, isn't it?
Yeah, well, lovely country to pass through there.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Tell me, you're going to do some work in the area, or planning to come back and do some work in the area?
Well, we'd like to. That's why we're here. We're having a look around, and well, 3 weeks is not very long, but we should know at the end of it whether we're going to do a long project here or not.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope you do.
Yeah, Sam's showing us all the good places. We've been going for 2 weeks now, and it's really great so
Well,
far.
you couldn't get a better guide, that's for sure.
Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this one.
While we are at Kalumbaroo, I make friends with Mary and Dolores and discover they are from the tribes of the Wandjina. Although we come from very different cultures, we develop a bond of friendship in this short period of time that is very special to me. Aborigines have been living in this community for many years now, but the older people still have a great knowledge of bush law, and Mary shows me how to find special roots by digging in the ground with a sharpened stick.
Find something.
You will see if it's good.
You boil it?
No, we don't boil them.
No?
We cook it. Then smash it with a stone.
Oh, right.
And eat
They
them.
cook it in the ashes.
Yeah.
Linda, you are sitting on the sun. Don't you get sunburn?
Oh, this is like buffalo skin.
Hey.
Nothing will
Oh,
happen to it.
no.
Your parents, they used to live around here before?
Yeah, but they used to be in the bush all the time, you know?
And when they came to the mission first time, had they seen Europeans before?
Well, they didn't see Europeans before. Then some people come from bush to make friends with.
To live with the missionaries?
Yeah, to live with the
But they
missionaries.
still lived a traditional life otherwise, even when they came to the mission?
Yeah.
Still
They-
hunted and...
They did do huntings and things, you know.
What did they think about the donkeys and cattle that the missionaries brought with them? Why are you laughing?
Well, donkey, they thought was the dog.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They thought the donkey was a dog?
Yeah, with long ears.
And what about the cattle?
Cattle, they thought was a kangaroo, but did not hop.
They thought the cattle was a kangaroo that did not hop?
Yeah. And the donkeys, later we called them donkey then.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and how did you learn about all the bush things?
Oh, Mary taught me how to do it, everything, you know.
Are you related to each other?
She's my auntie.
And now, and Mary's taught you these things and so on, and are you going to teach
My
younger
children,
people?
the youngest one, my children, yeah.
Do they want to learn?
Well, if they want to learn.
Lord God, Heavenly King, Almighty God and Father, we worship you, we give you thanks, we praise you for your glory. Lord Jesus Christ, only Son of the Father, Lord God, Lamb of God, you take away the...
It has been a long time since I've been to church, but I want to share the experience of the Mass with Mary and Dolores. Their Aboriginal culture is dynamic and very much alive, but here at Kalambaroo, the people think of themselves as Christians and seem to be able to accommodate their tribal laws and their Christian beliefs. These are the children of Wandjina attending a Roman Catholic Mass. And these are the children of the church preparing for a corroboree.
And you always use white or you use other colours too?
Yeah, I got red and white.
Yellow.
Sometimes they use blood, and they get the small fine feather of birds and things.
For Aborigines, the concept of art is not confined to rock paintings. It is a part of everyday life, used to decorate people, ornaments, and weapons as the occasion demands. With no written language, art becomes an important means of passing down knowledge from generation to generation, for telling stories and creating the symbols used for religion and ritual.
phone from the US. National Geographic calling Belinda, Wright or Stan Breeden. Are they with you? Over.
9 Whiskey Yankee. Yes, I'll give them a call for you. Stan, there's a telephone call for you.
Stan Breeden here, over.
Stan, it's Dave Arnold here.
Hi, Dave, how are you? Over.
Fine, Stan. Hey, where on earth are you? I've been chasing you since Kakadu.
We're in the Kimberley in Western Australia.
You two sure Tell me, Stan, is Belinda there? Can you put her on?
Hi, Dave. What a surprise to hear from you.
In the excitement of the last 3 weeks, I had almost forgotten about National Geographic and our obligation to go back to the USA.
When are we going to see you?
We'd been tracked down all the way out here and brought back to reality by an international phone call. But even as I communicate my enthusiasm for the land of the Wandjina, my mind goes back to something Moel had said. That Aboriginal people were created by the Wandjina and given the power and responsibility to look after the land, the trees, the rivers, the animals, and life itself. And that if the Wandjina paintings and the tribal rituals were ever neglected, then the natural world would cease to exist. I don't understand the forces that have kept this land from so-called progress and development for so long, but I rejoice in the fact that it has been preserved in its natural state, and I call on Moel and his people to use whatever powers conferred on them by the Wandjina to keep it that way.